This show is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Without a healthy mind, being happy is hard. Visit betterhelp.com/kindafunny and see if online therapy is for you.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Kinda Funny Xcast, your home for all things Xbox here at Kinda Funny. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, Snowbike Mike, and today you got a special episode. We are coming hot and live and fresh right off of the Gamescom 2021 Xbox stream. This is the Kinda Funny Xcast, and we have a whole lot of guests because we are going to give you our impressions and experiences coming out of that stream for Gamescom kickoff. Of course, I am joined by one of my incredible co-hosts, my guy, Gary Whitta. Gary Whitta, how are you, Rogue One?
I'm good. This is my third Kinda Funny show in a row today. Back to back to back. We did KFGD early, then we did the live Gamescom React. Now I'm here for an all-star Xcast. Look at this lineup.
And if I can point out, since we didn't take any breaks, this counts as one appearance, and so we will only pay you once.
Okay. Thank you, Greg Miller. Of course, Gary would have given me his best today. He's given all of us his best. Our co-host, Paris Lilly, of course, was hosting today's Gamescom at 2021 at Xbox Stream, so he's off. So I have the whole Kinda Funny crew joining me. The whole Kinda Funny Reacts team is here. We have the one, the only Greg Miller. Hello, Greg. How are you?
I'm great, Mike. How are you?
Oh, I'm so good. Thank you so much. We have the Hispanic heartthrob, the Texas treat, the Latino heat, the man who's always clicking heads and ripping them to shreds, Andy Cortez.
I'm doing fantastic. I hope you're all doing well as well. We just hung out for about an hour and a half.
I love it. You know, we have some newcomers to the Kinda Funny Xcast. It's really nice because you all get to come join us. Of course, we have the future class of video games, Blessing Adeoye Jr. How are you, Bless?
Doing good, Mike. How are you?
I'm good, Bless. You know what? We experienced something today, and I look forward to having that conversation with you. That's how I'm going to start it off. And, of course, the master of hype, my mentor in all things fun and excitement, the guy, Tim Geddes. How are you, Tim?
I'm doing fantastic. There's nothing that gets me in the mood more than the theme song for this show. That shit is
I love
high
that
quality.
theme song.
So good.
Chef
Damn
Kiss.
good.
We get to hype up to that each and every single week. And, of course, before we jump into the show, this is the Kinda Funny Xcast. We post each and every Saturday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time on youtube.com/kindafunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and of course on your favorite podcast service around the globe. But this episode, we're doing it live. We're here on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames. So it's a special one. And that means you're not on Patreon. But if you are on Patreon, of course, we appreciate your support. You get the fun ad-free viewing. You get the live show recorded each and every Friday. So shout out to all of our incredible Patreon producers for the show. Julian the Gluten-Free Gamer, James Hastings, Casey Andrews, Elliot, and Brand Ward. Of course, this week's Xcast is sponsored by ExpressVPN, HelloFresh, and Native, but me and the team will tell you all about that later on. Let's jump right into it, guys. We are coming hot and fresh right off of Gamescom 2021 Xbox stream. So we're going to give you our impressions and our thoughts on it all. So, guys, why don't we kick off with our initial thoughts right now? Gary Whitta, you're my co-host. You're Mr. Xbox here with me. Let's talk about it. What were your initial thoughts coming off of that stream?
My initial thought, as I heard we were just talking about that wonderful Halo-inspired theme music that we open every Xcast with. That's the most Halo content you're going to get on this show this week.
Oh, Gary, that is the truth. That's a good one right there.
Okay, let's keep it real. So Microsoft did manage expectations for this. They don't expect any jaw-dropping, megaton game announcements. This is going to be low-key. We're going to give you some updates on stuff you pretty much already know about. And that's pretty much what they did. But I don't know. I mean, Paris did a great job as always. It was very professionally put together. There wasn't a lot of stuff I personally cared about or got excited about. It was very low-key. We talked about how it felt more like an Inside Xbox than the kind of special showcase it would put together, as part of a major, games expo like Gamescom is happening right now. Forza looked good. We had some fun kind of riffing on stupid. We were trying to talk about we were trying to find things to talk about as they were spent 20 minutes talking about a fucking trebuchet, in Age of Empires 4. It was rough. Like say, again, they managed the expectations, and I'm glad they did, because we went in with low expectations, and those low expectations were met. I think there's going to be a lot of exciting news to come before the end of the year. That Halo date is coming. This felt like a bit of a double punch coming off the back of, we're all still bummed about the no co-op campaign at launch news for Halo Infinite. I think we were all hoping that they would give us a Halo date, or they would give us something to kind of, keep us. Obviously, we're all, we're plenty excited, but like we needed like something real positive. And what we saw today was kind of like, okay, sure, like this all looks cool. Like not a lot. They didn't generate a lot of excitement today, I don't think.
It's insane, Gary, that we live in a world in 2021 where to carry a conference, we have a racing game, a controller, and cloud gaming, which are the biggest moments in this hour-and-a-half long conference. And that is wild to think about. And I can't imagine that we are in that. It's pretty wild. Greg Miller, you are from PS I Love You XOXO, but you've been around. You know everything about video games. What did you think about this?
I think Gary mentioned, of course, they try to keep your expectations in check. I think there's a world of difference between, hey, there's not going to be any bangers here, or that we're not doing banger blockbuster new announcements, and then just having a conference that languishes on the vine. Like this one was poorly paced. It's, it's sad because, of course, Paris did a great job. Don't get me wrong on that. It's not a host thing or like that. Just the content they put out. I think we stayed on stuff too long. We didn't have that pace that was moving through it. And even when you double back to how Xbox handled the E3, where they did do long conversations, they just didn't stick around as long. They seem to be about different games here. I saw the prevailing thing in our chat, right, of like, this could have been an email. And that's how a lot of these announcements felt, right? That they could have been an email, that you could have gone through faster. You lose so much of what was exciting about the conference, the way it was paced out. Where I think you look at, like, I thought, the Humble section, right? For all the games coming from Humble coming to Game Pass on day one. That was a great section where we were all
That was a highlight, yeah.
Ooh, what's happening there? Blah, blah, blah. And like, Unpacking is one of the games I have on there that I'm stoked about. But then to go deeper and get into that Age of Empires part and stay there for so long and have it explain medieval weaponry and what they did and all that stuff. And you're like, okay. And then they came out of that and talked about the game, right? You're like, okay, why didn't we just do the game? Why didn't we save that for a fan, for social media kind of things like that? And I feel like you had a couple moments like that as we just got hung up on different ways to get out of it. And then an abrupt ending, right? Where we came out and it seemed like Paris were saying goodbye, right? And setting us up, but there's still a lot more. Okay, great. And then we go to this Forza Horizon thing, and then it was just over.
I mean, there was genuine confusion at the end there, right? Because they didn't even throw back to the hosts for like an outro. Thanks for joining us. See you next time, whatever. It felt like the stream just like stopped rather than ended. Like there was a moment where we're like, wait, is that it? Like that? It was weird.
What's weird? That was not the ending that I think we all wanted. Blessing, you're giggling, you're feeling that. Blessing, what were some of your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, like I wasn't too mad at this presentation. I think they did set my expectations accordingly. I wasn't expecting any sort of great announcements. I think the most I was expecting, and I wasn't even expecting this too much, was a Halo Infinite date. And that was if we were lucky, right? And we didn't get anything Halo. I think for what they showed up with, showing off more Forza Horizon 5, I'm always down for. I thought the showing for that one was really good as well. I think for me, when I look at these kinds of conferences, what I look for is discovering something new that I didn't know about before, but then also getting cool, tangible updates on things that I do care about. And when you have a slate of games where you can have a diverse amount of people come to a showcase and expect multiple different kinds of things, I think the goal is to try and have something that speaks to everybody. And for me, I think the thing that did speak to me, and it spoke to you guys as well, was the Humble games coming to Game Pass. That was a thing that we all kind of popped for a little bit. But then things here and there, like Into the Pit, that was one that I didn't know about before, and that is the Doom-looking games, but it looks like Doom, except instead of guns, you have magic hands, and you change the spells that you're doing. That looked fun, and that's a game that's coming to Game Pass day one, and that's coming in October, so I think that's an exciting thing. Some of the updates we got with Flight Simulator looked interesting. The Sea of Thieves Borderlands collaboration is interesting. I still feel like it's somewhat of a weird collab, but it's enough people in chat and enough people here were like, no, that's something that I'm down for.
It's that important thing, and I'm gonna let you get back to sorry, but it's that important thing with that one, right? Where I think the ship looked cool, and I want that in my arsenal. And I'm a Sea of Thieves fan since Pirates, right? And like they're gonna drop something. It's an event that has a limited time thing, right? It's only going till September 7th. Like I'm down, Mike. When we got to take a night, jump in there and do whatever quest I need to knock that out and do it. I think that's what they wanted. That kind of game. I'm sorry, Blessing, back to you.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think for me, I wish there were more. If we were going to show off games like Into the Pit or games like The Gunk, I think I would have loved more pop or more something more substantial to show that wasn't just a hey, by the way, The Gunk exists. It's coming out this holiday. By like, I wish we got more concrete info because for The Gunk, they did put out a blog post saying that it's coming in December. Why wasn't that here, right? Like, why didn't we get that information here? And also,
Taking a
why
page
didn't
out of PlayStation's book?
Exactly. And why didn't we get I think for something like The Gunk that looks as good as it is and is coming from the folks behind SteamWorld Dig 2, they could have done a way more hype trailer for it. I think there are things here and there that I wish they tightened up. But all in all, I wasn't looking for anything magnificent out of this showcase. And again, the showcase wasn't anything magnificent. Like, it was honestly fairly boring. It felt like an inside Xbox, which I think that is a thing that is for the hardcore Xbox community, the people that do want the granular details of games like Age of Empires or other games. And so on that level, they did the thing, but this is not a showcase that I'm going crazy about whatsoever.
It honestly makes me wonder. I don't want to sound too harsh, but it makes me wonder why they decided to do this, or at least to do this in this format. Like, those developer interviews always feel a bit forced to me. Like, they're not real journalistic interviews. It's just like they're there to kind of promote the game and have this kind of what always feels like a bit of a stilted conversation. But like, when you're spending 5-10 minutes talking about one particular weapon in Age of Empires, or 10 minutes talking about, we've added a bunch of obscure, aircraft, like some German aircraft from the 1940s, we've added that to Flight Simulator. That's really interesting to a very, very specific group of people. And, there's a place for that on, maybe as like discrete YouTube videos. Hey, Age of Empires fans, here's a new 10-minute video on a weapon we've added for you. But to package all that together and make it, the core of a Gamescom presentation, it ends up kind of feeling like less than the sum of its parts.
Agreed.
Yeah,
1,000%, Gary.
It's wild, Gary, that I didn't get any energy and excitement out of this press conference until the very end when they showed Forza, which I've seen about 1,000 times now. Like, it was slow from the beginning, and I never felt it coming up. Andy Cortez, what did you think about this whole Gamescom live stream?
I feel like a lot of what we're going to say is just mirroring each other. I think it was kind of lackluster. The Humble Bundle stuff looked really neat. Forza at the end was hype as hell. I love that new controller. Looking at the full trailer of the 1 minute that they showed of the Gunk and seeing it in better quality, it's sort of hitting that sort of Recore AA feel that I really have been kind of wanting. Well, I thought I wanted, and then I played Biomutant, so maybe I don't want it. But it looks like a fun enough game that's intriguing enough, and it's got really nice visuals. But yeah, the Humble Bundle stuff looked like a lot of fun. That one PS1 looking game that sort of had those horror kind of freaky vibes. That's sort of an aesthetic that I think can be explored a bit more. Where I'm sorry?
Signalis.
Yeah. Signalis looks dope. Midnight Fight Express, what we're watching right now, looks really cool. Yeah, I don't think that there was a whole lot of need to have this on this sort of big of a stage. And again, this isn't E3, I'm aware of that, but it just seems like when you're going the day before Gamescom, one night only, and having that sort of, it just seems like a more prestigious area to have sort of this presentation. And maybe it does need to be a smaller thing with less marketing and less advertisement, and just say, hey, we're going to go through some of our smaller titles and some titles you are already aware of. Similar to what Bless mentioned earlier, that one Hell game, what was it called, Bless?
Into the Pit.
Into the Pit, sorry. That looks pretty interesting as well. But again, nothing that's really going to make the meter blow up. I think it's all just sort of interesting smaller titles that I will probably dig into, and not much more than that.
Well said there, Andy. It's interesting because we've all kind of mirrored the same feelings and thoughts on this. And I think Aaron Greenberg and, even our Paris Lilly, we all talked about it beforehand of like, manage your expectations, be prepared for us to talk about what's coming out here in the second half of 2021. And that's what we're going to dive into. And even for me, my expectations when I managed them and lowered them were not met with this, right? This is an Inside Xbox. It is a deep dive. And I've watched more Inside Xbox than the next guy, right? And I love those. And I think they are fun. But now you attach it onto Gamescom, which I think is the right move, right? Nobody's going to watch an Inside Xbox like this caliber on a random Tuesday in September. So you attach it to Gamescom, you get more eyes. But there's a lot of games that Xbox has talked about coming out in the end of the year here, from Crossfire X, Among Us, Fall Guys, Bright Memory, Scorn, The Gunk, right? That I expect to be there and us to talk about and get release dates and learn a little bit more of. And 90% of those titles I just listed weren't even there. We kicked it off with a non-Xbox first-party title, which was really interesting to see. And in all honesty, when you look at the first-party lineup, there isn't much. We're looking forward to Forza Horizon. We're looking forward to Halo to round out this year. And there's some small updates here and there with other games, but those are the big ones. And one of them wasn't even at this presentation. So this did not meet my expectations after I've even lowered them. But it is fun to have these deep dives, an interesting vibe, but not the way that I wanted to see this.
And real quick, before Tim goes, I do want to mention that several months ago, I don't remember exactly when it was, but we had that sort of sit-down interview with Phil Spencer, and he gave a lot of cool details about the future of Xbox and kind of made some news with some reveals that he was saying about the future of cloud gaming and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that was live, if I remember correctly. I think it was just sort of a YouTube interview that released, and then we sort of watched it several hours later. This could have just been that. This could have been something that releases and maybe makes some news here on Twitter, but it doesn't, in my opinion, I don't think this needs to be a live thing that we're all sort of sitting and reacting to as if we're going to get, huge sort of Woj bombs, Mike,
The Woj bombs. Yeah, I think you're right, Andy, right? I don't think this could be released anytime and people would watch it. You'd get the 4 big things out of it. But I think you attach something like this to a Gamescom or an E3, whatever you want to call it, and throughout the year, and you just get more eyes, right? We kind of double those eyes, and people are going to come out of it talking that smack, bumping their gums if they didn't like it or if they liked it, right? But I think you at least get a little more eyes on a presentation like this. If you release this September 7th on a random Tuesday, nobody's going to watch this, right? It's going to get half the views. So I think they attach these things to it to try to get a little more hype and energy. And talking about hype and energy, Tim, you're my mentor of hype. You are the man behind the presentations. You know what clicks, what doesn't. What did this do for you?
I mean, that's a great segue there, because that's the thing, is it's up to you what you do with a captive audience. And that's what this is. These aren't, I understand that a lot of people can look at us and be like, well, it's up to you. You guys chose to react to it. It's like, well, it was presented to us as if it's something that we should be reacting to. Like putting it on with that Gamescom branding and the way that they presented it, even if they're saying temper your expectations, they said to expect updates on the second half of Xbox's fall. And there was one question on everyone's mind, and that is, when is Halo coming? Because we know that it is this fall from everything that they've said. And it's unfortunate that the Halo news we did get in the last week was bad news. And you really kind of got to wonder, was there a plan to have Halo end this event? But they didn't, because of what they put out last week. And they're just like, that's where we're at with this. We still need more time to figure it all out. Or is it, we're going to see Halo tomorrow, which I really expect. I think that does make a lot of sense. But having said that, tease that.
Yeah,
don't end this with a splash screen that says thank you. Say, hey, and tomorrow, I know you guys are waiting for it. It's Halo. And cool. We would have been at least somewhat all right, cool. There's some sense to this presentation being what it was. I really hate this era that we're in. I've said this a lot, of the transparency necessary for these things, because of the extreme hype that some Nintendo Directs have hit in the past, that there's this expectation that every single time it's going to be a megaton. And I think that it's less that, because people get so angry. It's more, there's always the chance, and that's what's exciting. Sure, it's going to lead to some bummer presentations every once in a while, but every once in a while, there's going to be an announcement that makes you go, oh my God, that's so exciting and cool. And we're seeing all these people have to neuter their announcements and set expectations and do this and that. And it still kind of sets the wrong tone no matter what, because guess what? The other thing they could have done for this have been hey, we're giving updates on everything. Halo's not going to be there. And then they would have set expectations, I think, a little more clear, but that would make this a better presentation. I really
does, right? When they're coming up to one of their state of plays, right? And they say that we won't be talking about X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, totally. And I just think that what Mike and what everybody has been saying about oh, this could have been an email, this could have been a YouTube video, and it's we could say that about literally anything, because not every game is going to be for everyone. But I'm looking at this and the way they presented it, and it's I don't think that this is for many people overall. That Age of Empires thing, I don't think is going to resonate with Age of Empires fans, right? Some people are they're excited for the game. This didn't make them more excited, right? Oftentimes these showcases, I mean, they are just commercials, but commercials can be good. and they should be good, and they can be good, and we've seen them be good from Xbox recently. So to be able to compare this like to even the Xbox show that was very similar in style to this is a little baffling to me. I'm surprised that this is as bad as it was as we look at this B-roll again.
Barrett's killing it. He just keeps bringing it up.
Oh, thanks, Barrett.
Tim,
That's
real quick, Tim, this reminds me of something that they would have flown you out to at some event, and you would have been next to the trebuchets, and you would have been shooting these fucking, cannons or whatever.
Did you call the trebuchet a Chevy Chase?
No, he said it right.
Oh, right next to Chevy Chase. See your chest.
And they would have been doing this, and you would just been thinking this is a waste of time. Like you could just show me the game. I don't need to be here.
Andy, thank you.
Yeah,
for saying that,
you're
because
right. It
that
had
would have
like
been
a
us,
press junket feel to it.
and we would have came back, and we would have been on Gamescast, and we would have been talking about it, and we would have made a snide remark about how stupid that was. Like, it wouldn't have been like, oh, it was cool. It was like, why the fuck did they make us do that? Like, if it's a commercial, that shouldn't be the takeaway from it, right? But the last thing I want to say about it in terms of presentation is the amount of times that they used this to pimp out their streams they're going to do all the rest of the week, like updating on the different games. It's like, that's what this was. It just kind of just feels like, why would we want more of that? And if we did want that, this should have just been that to begin with, right? Like, Gamescom means something. And sure, like Barrett keeps saying, like they've never announced anything in the past. That's irrelevant. That's the past. We're talking about the future. We're talking about a world where Jeff Keighley has created Opening Night Live. And in the same way that Game Awards used to not be that great and now they're awesome, we're building towards this future that has the 3 tentpoles of the year of E3, Opening Night Live, and the Game Awards. And to have programming as Xbox, one of the big dogs, next to that Gamescom, part surrounding that Opening Night Live, it's like there's expectations there, and you can say manage them all you want, but you're already setting them somewhere.
When
and here we all are
when did
reacting to
Opening
that.
Night Live start? Wasn't that just like a few years ago? Because I want like 2019. Like, do we really expect Opening Night Live to be there yet? Since it's so early on with like what Keighley has done for E3 and the Game Awards, do we really expect it in its 3rd year to really like bring the same heat as those other two?
I mean, Keighley.
Keighley knows
Keighley,
what
right? Like
people
for E3, he did the summer, or not for E3, but for Summer Game Fest, right? He did Kickoff Live. And the Kickoff Live event that he did back in June was a good event, right? Like we got Elden Ring there, we got Tiny Tina's Wonderlands there, right? And he also does Game Awards. I think for Keighley, the way I see it is that he has right now a trilogy of events that he tries to tie to other events through Summer Games Fest. But when we're talking about the events that he puts on himself, like he has set an expectation. Right now, I'm looking at Opening Night Live as part of that trilogy of events that Keighley puts on. And for me, that does come with expectation. Like I expect Opening Night Live to be dope, right? I'm not going to say that's going to be dope as Game Awards or dope as a PlayStation E3 conference or dope as like the hypest thing ever. But I do think that it's reasonable to bring good expectations into that.
I also incorrectly called it One Night Only.
Okay, nice.
CW, one night stand.
You know what, Tim? You said it so well, right? Of like, it is interesting, and we'll talk about Halo at the end of the show here about why it wasn't here or what's going on. It is odd that you would, let's just say in a world, they put Halo at Opening Night Live. What is the point then of having this Xbox event? Why is Halo not at the Xbox event? Why would you put it over there? These are the things we're going to talk about at the end of the show, because that is a very odd one. You have 2 big tentpoles, Forza and Halo, coming out this holiday. Those are going to celebrate the 20th anniversary. Another stream here, we didn't even celebrate the 20th anniversary. When are we going to start the festivities? When are we going to start the fun, the celebrations? Where's the Xbox mini fridge? Where is those 20th anniversary big moments? We haven't had that at all yet.
Mike,
and we're 2 months away.
It's going to be like the Olympics. We're going to celebrate the 2020 Olympics in 2021. We're going to celebrate the 20th anniversary in 2022.
Hey, guess what? We pushed it back a whole year, 21. That's right. So it's just very odd and it's baffling. And we're going to talk about all that. But let's go down the list of what we just saw at the Gamescom 2021 Xbox stream right after a word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Native. What's the difference between an antiperspirant and a deodorant? Antiperspirants contain aluminum, which plugs your sweat glands to stop you from sweating. Native deodorant does not contain aluminum or parabens or sulfates. It's vegan and never tested on animals. Native will keep you smelling and feeling fresh all day long. Their classic scents include coconut and vanilla, lavender and rose, cucumber and mint, and eucalyptus and mint, and more, including an unscented option. Besides their classic deodorant, Native offers a baking soda-free formula for those with sensitivities. Gia's been using this native deodorant. She loves it. She's recommending it. It's been keeping her smelling good. I can attest to that for sure. You're going to love Native as much as we do. Right now, you can save 20% off on your first purchase. Go to nativedeo.com/KFgames or use promo code KFgames at checkout. That's nativedeo.com/KFgames or use promo code KFgames at checkout to save 20% on your first purchase. That's nativedeo.com/KFgames. Next up, shout out to HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients and mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. You can skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Fall is busy, but HelloFresh recipes save time you'd otherwise spend meal planning, shopping, chopping, all so you can get back to what matters most. A lot of people are Kinda Funny have been using HelloFresh for a very, very long time, including Kevin and Paula. You know, Kevin, very much a meat eater, Paula, a vegetarian, but they have options for everybody. So everybody gets to be happy. And I get to be really happy whenever I get HelloFresh as well. Gia makes it and it is incredible stuff. You can go to HelloFresh.com/KFGames14 using code KFGames14 for up to 14 free meals, including free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/KFGames14. Use the code KFGames14 for up to 14 free meals, including free shipping. So there you go. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. And finally, shout out to ExpressVPN. Using the internet without ExpressVPN is like walking your dog in public without securing them on a leash. I would never do that with Moose. It would not end well. Most of the time, you'll probably be fine. But what if one day your dog wanders a bit too far and gets dog napped by somebody? That's real bad. Wouldn't want that at all. Every time you connect to an unencrypted network at cafes, hotels, airports, etc., your online data is not secure. Any hacker on the same network can gain access to and steal your personal data, your passwords, financial details, all that bad stuff. Some reasons to use ExpressVPN, just like I have, are you get an encrypted tunnel, it's super secure, it's easy to use, and that's kind of my favorite thing. You fire up the app, you click one button, and then you're protected. I have it on my desktop, I have it on my phone. I don't need to worry. My internet experience, protected and secure. You can secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/kindafunny. That's expressvpn.com/kindafunny. And you can get an extra 3 months free. expressvpn.com/kindafunny.
Welcome back, everybody. Now let's jump into the show and let's talk about what we saw at Gamescom 2021, the Xbox stream. Now, guys, we kicked off with a non-first party Xbox title. We kicked off with Dying Light 2, and I want to talk about a couple of things really quick. This is a fun recap of what we just saw, and I always like to harken back to one of my favorite podcasts, Jalen and Jacoby. So we're going to play the game, keep it moving, or hit the brakes. If there's a game you want to talk about, I want you to say, hit the brakes, Mike, and we're going to stop the truck right there. We'll talk about it. If nobody's vibing with it, we'll keep it moving. But to kick off this Gamescom 2021 Xbox stream, we saw Dying Light. And now I'm going to look at the whole cast here. I'm going to look at everybody watching and listening out there in the universe. I don't like the idea of kicking off a show like this without a first-party title. And if we're not going to do a first-party title, it is odd that we chose Dying Light 2 of all games when there's so many other options that I would have thrown the bag at, from a rumored GTA collection, a Saints Row, Riders Republic, Battlefield, Call of Duty. I mean, there's so many other games that I would have thrown money at than Dying Light 2. And we went on another deep dive of Dying Light 2, you guys, of movement and weapons, and a game that has been talked about since 2018 and beyond. What did everybody feel with Dying Light 2 to kick this off? Feel free to jump in there.
I'm with you a little bit, Mike, in the sense that kicking it off with this was a choice. And I think the choice was a little bit of a letdown simply because it didn't end with a day one Game Pass reveal. I think like that with what Xbox been building the last couple of years and like the type of big moves they've been making, this also seems like the type of game that they could get away with doing that. And like, of course, there'd be some money moves there, but I think that would have been a lot more exciting. Not expected for sure. Obviously, things don't just work that way, but Xbox has kind of proven that they can make them work that way if they want to. So starting it off with this was a little weird without that moment, because I don't think there was any real news here, right? We already knew the release date.
No,
this
I
is
don't.
Just
there was nothing.
trailer.
This was another small deep dive of like, hey, We've added a lot of movement animations, and hey, there's going to be some weapons in this game. I didn't see anything that wowed me after seeing this. It almost feels like Deathloop, which is a game I think will be much better and way more fun. But I've seen it so many times that I don't need this for another 3 to 5 minutes, especially on an opening of this stream that was supposed to, yes, manage expectations, but also celebrate Xbox and show off some Xbox stuff.
Yeah, not to mention, Mike, that we'd seen this game about 3 times already. And then we had a full deep dive where it was, what was it, 30 minutes that you, me, and Bless were reacting to?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I thought that was going to be probably the last time we saw it until the game comes out, aside from little trailers and things like that that release. But that was a full deep dive. And then we kind of got a similar thing here where the devs are talking to you about what's coming, what sort of changes are happening, what, some things that we should be looking forward to. And it just seems like it really out of place to open up an Xbox showcase.
Yeah, I think for the Dying Light side of it, I think the strategy for them might be the fact that for that Dying Light showcase that we reacted to, that maybe didn't bring in the audience that you would get at an Xbox showcase or at a PlayStation showcase or at any sort of third party. Like Dying Light 2 is being published by a Ubisoft or an EA or an Activision or somebody who has their own locations where they can show off a Dying Light 2 to a wider audience. I think for them, they kind of need any boost they can get, and being able to attach themselves at Xbox at Gamescom is the way to do that. Should it open the presentation? Absolutely not. Like I'm with you guys that is a weird move. I think if you shoved it somewhere in the middle, it'd be that thing of, okay, here's the Dying Light section. All right, cool. Now that's done because we've all here seen it. But I'm sure for an amount of the audience that tunes into Xbox at Gamescom, there are probably people that maybe have heard of Dying Light or have seen glimpses of it, but maybe seeing the actual mechanics and systems at work is the thing that sells them on actually getting the game on Xbox this fall. Because at this point, when we're looking at the fall of big AAA releases, like Dying Light 2 is kind of a highlight there. Like it's kind of the thing that's ending the year in terms of that. And so like it is a part of that story. And so like I think it makes some sense, but it should have been shown better, I think.
It seems odd that like I said, I'd rather have seen a first party team come out and show off something Xbox. If Halo's not there, which it wasn't, show off Psychonauts. Like bring Psychonauts out there, get colorful, get fun, creative. I don't know why we chose this, and it just didn't feel right. And I think that quickly set the tone for me of like, okay, this is not going to be what I expected, nor what I was going to go for here. So didn't like that. Moving on, we did bring back the first party fun, but it's a game that we've already been playing, which is Flight Sim. And Gary has touched on this a lot of, Flight Sim is a awesome and great game. But if you're not in that target audience, you're going to play Flight Sim about 3 times and then never play it again, right? And so they come out with these updates. They tease us more with the Top Gun update, which I know I'm looking forward to, but still no release date, still no movement on that. They tease World Update 6, which is Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. One that did hit home for me because I am so close. I don't know what people will really vibe with, but was the Reno air races. That's a big time thing there. I think the idea of going fast and racing the planes in Reno will be a ton of fun, a little bit different from what you're normally accustomed to with Microsoft Flight Sim. But this was another 10-minute section here that just felt like it dragged right there in the middle to kick this off. Gary, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, and again, there wasn't really anything wrong or bad with the stuff that they showed. They're all games that the audiences for these games are going to be excited about. And it's like you said, a lot of the updates did feel a lot along the lines of, yep, we're definitely still making this game. There just wasn't much new to add. And I think that if they'd have taken for example, that Flight Sim section and dropped that as a YouTube video of interest to Flight Sim fans with no fanfare, it would have been great. The Flight Sim fans who would have been interested in it would have gone there and got excited about it. The obscure German aircraft and the Reno Air Rally and the Top Gun stuff. It's all good stuff for Flight Sim fans. But it's really just a question of packaging and presentation and how they chose to show this stuff. It's like a lot of people that are not interested in Microsoft Flight Simulator had to sit through that, right? And we were struggling for things to talk about during that section. It was just weird. Like you need, if you're going to have a presentation like this where a lot of eyeballs are going to be on it, you want to start the show strong, you want to end the show strong. You could argue that they halfway ended it strong. Again, Forza Horizon is one of the big bangers for this year, and there was a lot of excitement. That was the most excited we got right at the end when they were debuting some of the vehicles, and Forza Horizon really does look great, and we were excited at the end there. But yeah, going back to Dying Light 2, is that really a game that you open a Gamescom presentation with? Probably not. And then 10 minutes on the history of the trebuchet, I felt like we were struggling to get through that section of it.
Right? Yeah, you lost all the momentum. You had no momentum, and you just gambled it away there.
Yeah,
came out the gates really slow. One that did pick all of you up, and I actually have some differing thoughts than you guys. But we had our first Game Pass update, and really the only big Game Pass update of the day, which was the Humble Bundle team up here, Humble Games. Now, you guys, a lot of indies here, some excitement with certain games. Blessing, what did you think of Humble Games and this team up here?
Yeah, no, I thought the showcase was awesome. I think it did the exact thing that you want a showcase like this to do, which is, give us a glimpse into a handful of games and have them be games that are going to strike you, right? Like for me, as somebody who likes pixel art action games, there were quite a few games here where I was like, oh, that looks cool. Oh, that looks cool. Oh, this one looks cool as well. Along with games like I forget what it's called, like the Midnight Fight Club, whatever that top-down game that looked like it could have been Sifu.
Yeah, Midnight Fight Express.
Yeah, that game looks dope as hell, and I wouldn't know about this game if they did include it with the name in this showcase. And we got a quick enough glimpse at gameplay where I saw it and I was like, oh shit, that looks cool, and we're on to the next one, right? They're showing off Dodgeball Academia. They're showing off other games like Bushiden, which I know got a pop from I think Andy and Tim popped for that one. I thought this was a great showcase. The fact that all of them are coming to Game Pass too, I would say is a big win. I think that's the thing that's super great for Game Pass. The fact that you have the Xbox first party games, but then you have a cool lineup of indies that are coming day and date to Game Pass. I think that helps build out variety in the catalog in a way where, you have things that you're discovering that are going to have the word of mouth that get more people in it. I think of games like Outer Wilds that launched on Game Pass back in the day, and that had the word of mouth that enabled people to get into it easily because they didn't have to spend full price necessarily if they had Xbox Game Pass. I think those are really important, and this seems to this seems to lend to more of those, and I think that's an awesome thing. So I was totally in on this.
Yeah, me too. Go for it, Andy.
I was just gonna say this could have been what a lot of what today was, something like this where it's quick hits and we're seeing nice little glimpses at games, and this is like this perfect kind of section in how you build this.
Yeah.
But for a lot of the other games, again, I think it comes down to timing, and I think this could have been a 45-minute thing instead of a whatever it was, 70, yeah, something like that. And so I think this section was neat. It was concise. It showed off probably like the better parts of those games, the stuff that's going to be sort of striking visually, and I really dug this little section.
100%.
For me, this section felt like the only section of the whole show that was like actually curated. Like I feel like they really respected our time, and they it wasn't just, oh, what games can we put here that are coming to Game Pass? It's like, no, what games would people be interested in seeing? And they're all shown in a quick enough way that we can get a couple pops and a couple things that we're interested in and want to go back to. And the fact that it's on Game Pass, which you're constantly reminded of, you're seeing the gameplay, you're seeing the game title, and on the right side, you're seeing where you can play this game, which is anyone watching this show probably has access to Game Pass in some way. That's cool. That's exciting. Greg and I always talk about these showcases, especially on the indie side of you need to make sure that you have some new information if you're going to do a showcase for whatever game you're talking about, whatever game you're showing. But on top of that, like when it comes to these montages, like we tend to prefer one step further than this, which is just a little VO to kind of explain what is actually happening. Like what is this? What makes it different than other games that might look similar? But I think that this montage actually did a really good job of not needing that. These games kind of speak for themselves, and all the information's there. Of course, release dates would have been nice for some of them, but I think that there's a lot of variation here, a lot of different styles that speak to a lot of people, and this was easily the most exciting minute and a half of the hour and a half that we had. Greg?
Yeah, I agree, and I that's why I come back to why I felt there was just some weird editorial decisions made. That little montage was great, but I wanted to know more about each game. I wanted to know less about the trebuchet. It's like rather than do 5 minutes on one weapon from one game, maybe give each of those really interesting indie games 60 seconds each, so we can find out a little bit more about those. Like you're going to do a really, really big deep dive on one granular element of one particular game, but then you're going to like rush through a bunch of other games that we're actually interested in. Just felt weird editorially.
Trebuchet less. You know what I'm saying?
There you go, Andy. It's funny because I'm actually different from all of you. I'm not the biggest indie guy, and this didn't pop for me. I was actually looking for a larger Game Pass announcement, some sort of partnership that would really pop here. And I know, humble games for a lot of people. Everybody, you guys are talking about it, probably will get people excited. And it's nice to shine the light on those indie games. And I feel like Game Pass already has a bunch of those already. I am looking for that next big partnership. And we've talked about it before. Dying Light 2, a Battlefield partnership would have been really big here. And I think that would have gone a much longer way for me in this whole situation. I'm kind of didn't need the additional indies. We see that every single month. There's 2 Game Pass updates, and it's packed
looks great.
It's packed with indie games already. I'm looking for something bigger now besides just our first party title. So I'm a little bit different on that one. I was a little so on Humble Games. Of course, there's a couple, but I was looking for something bigger. Moving on, we have Into the Pit, which I'm going to pause for just a moment because it reminded me of a game, Gary Whitta, that I used to play on my N64 called Hexen. And of course, Blessing brought it up of like, oh, this looks like old school Doom kind of, but he has 2 hands that are like, the violent weapons. And that is exactly what Hexen was to me way back in the day. And is this a game I'm going to play? No, I'm looking at you right now. I'm never going to play this game, but it was cool. It was colorful. I'll probably skip it, but I don't think this spoke to me.
And you can buy it. For
okay. If it's 4 players, then you'll get me, but I will never play this game ever right here, which was another one of like, here's a game that's like doesn't speak to me. I personally think this will have a small audience and it will come and go, and we will never speak of this again, which is fun.
This is one that I would only play because it's on Game Pass. The fact that I could turn on my Xbox and scroll through the Game Pass catalog and see it there and go, oh shit, this is that one game that looked like Doom or that Mike described as similar to Hexen. I'll try this out for 30 minutes, see how I feel, and then bounce off of it. Like that is I think this is a good fit for what that is, because I think there are a lot of games that are going for that similar feel. There are a lot of games that are trying to be Quaker, that are trying to be Doom. Like I see that I get the emails for them in my inbox all the time, and I see them and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, this looks like the other thing. But the fact that this is accessible, and the fact that I like kind of what they're doing with the magic hands, I think that's a cool gimmick. I want to check that out. But I'm with you, Mike. That it's not one that I see myself trying out for a long time. I just try it out just to fuck with it.
Up next, we had Age of Empires 4, which if you're an Xbox fan or a PC fan, the Age series. Age of Empires is awesome. This RTS is going to be a ton of fun. But we have shown this game to death. They even had their own little mini festival like last month or the month before, where we did a whole week of Age 4 content. And it is wild to see how they are now promoting this and showing it off. And I think there is something fun to say about this, right? They're calling it Hands-On History, which has like X amount of lessons in there that will probably play some sort of, different Imperial group, will play some sort of age, and they'll tell us a fun story. But to bring out the trebuchet, and we talked about this trebuchet for 5 minutes. No joke. We were there talking about a trebuchet live on action. Yeah, the trebuchet is dope, right? Way cooler than any other siege weapon. But also, what is the point here? And so very odd to show off Age 4, which we already know about. We've already seen a bunch of. And they're like, you know what? Let's give you a history lesson on a siege weapon you don't care about. And I just am lost at what this was all about. But this screams Inside Xbox. If we're managing expectations, we call this Inside Xbox. This is what they do on Inside Xbox.
There's nothing wrong with this at an Inside Xbox. There is something wrong with this in this presentation.
Yeah, it takes me back to that. Remember that really dry technical presentation that Mark Cerny did for the PlayStation 5, which was originally intended to be like for a technical GDC type audience, but then Sony rolled it out in a more consumer facing way, and people were like, "What's this? This isn't exciting." He's talking about how it accesses the SSD in like a really dry technical way. There was nothing wrong with the presentation for a certain audience. It was the way it was presented that people came away. People went in with a certain expectation and walked away thinking, what the hell was that? This is a kind of a different vibe to that, but it was still I'm like, why wasn't this just an Inside Xbox? Like it's weird.
Gary, the thing there though, the difference with the PlayStation thing is the context matters when it comes to these type of announcements and showcases and streams, whatever you want to call them. But with that PlayStation thing, they set the expectations right. The problem was we didn't know shit about the PlayStation 5. So everybody's clamoring and everyone was so hungry. And we expected the first kind of words about the PlayStation 5 to be more exciting than a tech thing, even though they explicitly said it was a tech thing.
Yeah.
To apply that context to this, when you're saying we're going to answer your questions about the fall, we all have one question about the fall. And you told me about a trebuchet.
Right.
And that's something, Tim, that could have been tweeted out, right? And they've done that in the past, and several different outlets and several different publishers and devs have immediately tweeted out, "Hey, tomorrow, do not expect news from blank, 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 and blank." And I think if they would have said no Halo Infinite news tomorrow, we all would have said, "Okay, no Halo Infinite news today. Maybe on Wednesday or what day is it? Tuesday? I'm lost. I'm losing track of time.
Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday. We would have said, okay, maybe Wednesday for the actual opening night live or whatever. And I wish they would have done that to sort of immediately sort of twist that knife and say, all right, no Halo news, Andy. Go to sleep, child. You know.
Here's what I will say though: if that is what these hands-on history lessons will be, like if it's actually like a fun like MythBusters history, channel type video inside the game, you can count me in for that. But if it's just like, hey, play this small campaign and like you're gonna play as Joan of Arc and run around, I'm not in for that. But like I do like this little spin. I'll watch those things in the game. I always think that's fun. But so here's my eyes as we start to hit the halfway point. In my eyes, we have dragged through this conference. Nothing has really popped. Nothing has been screaming hot. And here's a moment from Xbox that should have really made a big pop and really gone a long way for people and really made a statement. But I think it got lost with how slow we were so far. And this was cloud gaming. Cloud gaming came out with a nice little presentation. And, we all know cloud gaming right now of being able to play on your phone and on your tablet, and now recently Windows 10s, right? And we know the future, right? Will it be a streaming stick? Will it go directly to your TV? When is it coming to consoles so you can play it on your console? And here it is. This is them showing it off of cloud gaming coming from your console on the Series consoles and on the Xbox Ones, and it just felt lost. This should have been almost a megaton announcement, something that really is going to change the face of gaming here. And somehow I watched this and I was like, I don't even care what's happening anymore. This should have been massive news. Greg, I know this kind of popped for you. What did you think?
You're right there. This is a great thing that I think, was hampered by coming off of Age of Empires 4. And then also the walk into it. I feel like it could have done stronger with the headline of here's what's happening. Because we were still bitching about Age of Empires. And then this is going on and I'm watching it and I have the volume turned up and then it was like, wait, this is that. It was just this should have been the better thing of if you haven't made the jump to the Xbox Series X, if you haven't made the jump to the Xbox Series S, and you're on an Xbox One, great news. This is what's happening, right? We're bringing you to the console. You are getting the cloud, meaning that you can get the best experience for all these games. And of course, it is so. They talk about it in their video, right? Of like, hey, like you can be playing this game instantly, right? You can save your storage for the games that are, more up your alley or you're going to be on top of or whatever you want to say. Like again, this is a great video that would have been better, I think, as a headline. I think they could have done better job of driving it home.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the extra, the news that came from this is so coming holiday 2021, a new cloud icon will be added to the supported game icons. Testing starts this fall, 1080p, 60 frames per second, just like it is on PC and mobile devices. New gen games are playable on Xbox One in the future.
Yep.
So a lot of really cool, interesting stuff. But yeah, the presentation of this really got lost in the sauce.
This is a big deal for myself and a lot of Xbox fans and for the whole gaming world, right? When we talk about cloud gaming and what this team is putting behind this movement is a huge deal right now. We're talking about all of your install space, right? We all talk about how tiny these SSDs are and why we never have enough to download the 250 gigabyte download for Call of Duty, constant updates. Like the cloud is going to change the way we play, and Xbox has put a lot into that. And we're now at the precipice of a big moment here of bringing these to consoles now. And yes, a lot of people's internets aren't up to snuff. Yes, there's a lot that goes into the back end that's good and bad. But also at the same time, like the opportunity for my friends and family who are still on the Xbox One consoles, especially in COVID times where nobody can find an Xbox, no matter what you're looking for, can now almost play the next generation of games streaming if they have good enough internet, is a big, big deal. And this one, I mean, this should have been a huge moment here. And it just felt like it got lost in the mix. And it's unfortunate because this was something I wanted to celebrate. This is something I love, and I will celebrate and enjoy it. But in this presentation context, this sucked. That didn't feel good at all. That was too bad.
I'm still hoping that, it not having an actual date is one of those things that's kind of holding it back from having that moment of clarity of like, this is what this is what it means to mainstream people. Like what cloud gaming in general, but specifically on the Xbox side, which with how much they're building it up and how much backing they have for it and Game Pass, and there's just so much positivity, so much good that's there, like and strength and things that'll just work. They need that Nintendo Switch announcement trailer moment where you see the people, they're partying on the rooftops with the Switch, they take it home, they dock it, and it's working and all that. And it's like buzzwords popping up of what you can do, Joy-Cons, you're taking them off, multiplayer games together. Like they need to somehow condense this really complex idea of what xCloud actually is into what does this mean for you? What does this mean for the people? And it needs big words like you don't have this console, doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. Here's all the things you can do to be able to play these games
and not
together.
show just everybody in that like little sizzle reel staying in the same situation where they're all at like the same couch or whatever.
Xbox headquarters. Yeah.
Exactly. Like Tim's saying, like show it in the wild, show how people are going to be able to realistically utilize it in their daily lives.
Yeah. I think it comes off as someone holding a controller being like, I like Xbox games. And it's like, cool.
There's a couple of things at play here, I think. One is the overall context in that, like the overall presentation was pretty low energy. So even like a bright spot, so something potentially interesting like the cloud Xbox gaming, the console gaming, just kind of got lost a little bit. Like, it was surrounded by all this stuff, about obscure German aircraft and medieval history lessons. Like, we were already kind of low energy going into it. Like, and so it was like, I know it was kind of surrounded by just weak stuff around it. But then the actual presentation itself, I think, didn't really sell just how cool this proposition is, right? I mean, you think about it. Here's the thing: I've complained about cloud gaming on the Xcast before because it's not quite there yet. Like I told a story recently about how I was staying at an Airbnb out of town with my family. I thought I'll give this a try. I've got my Android phone with me, or my whatever it was that I had with me at the time. So let me try some Donut County, and it was laggy because the internet connection at the house wasn't great, right? So you're always at the mercy of your internet connection. But here's the thing: the one place where you have a reasonable expectation of having a decent internet connection is in your own home, right? Whatever your own home Wi-Fi is, especially, or maybe a wired connection, even better. That's where you've got the best chance of fulfilling the promise of cloud gaming. That's where your home console is. And here's the thing, it's a really simple argument to make. Hey, having a hard time getting an Xbox Series X? Guess what? If you've got an Xbox One at home and Game Pass Ultimate, you already have one because we're going to upgrade it for you through the cloud. You're going to be playing Xbox Series X games on your Xbox One. It's a really simple promise to make that they can deliver on. But I just feel like the way that they sold it, they didn't sell it. They've got something that's really sellable, and yet they somehow managed to not sell me on this really awesome idea.
This would be a much bigger deal to me, like Gary is mentioning, if cloud gaming felt good. And I've played on gigabit internet hardwired, and it never feels good for me. Regardless of what hardware I'm using, regardless of whether I'm wired or Wi-Fi, what a nightmare trying to play Celeste is. Something that requires a lot of precision and timing. And I hate that for the time being, and hopefully not too much longer. Hopefully in the next year or so, it will feel better. As good as like Amazon Luna did that one time I did. That felt really great, and the responsiveness was amazing, and I was pretty shocked by it. But I hate that whenever I think about cloud gaming, my mind always goes to, oh, that game can be cool because it doesn't require responsiveness. That game can be cool because it's sort of a passive experience, and you can play that on the cloud.
Oh, it's
Exactly.
turn-based. It's not.
Yeah,
It's something
yeah.
you can like. Donut County would be a good game for it. If
And
even
that's the
that-
thing. I don't doubt when we have like true ultra wideband 5G everywhere, 6G, or like whatever the next iteration of like broadband internet is, we're gonna get there. I just think they're a little bit their reach just kind of exceeds their grasp right now, in the sense that we know it's going to be amazing, but like again, to Andy's point is well taken. I was talking about how like your best internet connection is at home. I have a gigabit. I have like as good an internet connection as you're going to get anywhere in the United States right now. Sonic gig up, gig down. And even then, when I've tried cloud gaming, like it's generally been pretty good. But like even when it's good, there's always the anxiety in the back of your mind. Like you're playing it through the cloud, right? It's like, is it going to glitch? Is it going to glitch? Like it's not quite there enough yet that you can do cloud gaming and feel as comfortable with it as you were playing on local hardware. I think we will get there, but it's a little bit ahead of its time right now.
I immediately think back to one of those early videos when Stadia first released, and I forgot who did the video. I want to say it's Gene Park, but I don't know why I'm thinking that. But it was that sort of slow-mo video of recording your hand on the controller, recording the screen.
Yeah, with Stadia, I remember that.
Hitting the button, seeing your player jump what felt like a second later. And to think that I still experience that with Microsoft Cloud Gaming is kind of a bummer because I want it to feel better. And again, I'm not necessarily even thinking that cloud gaming is going to be something that I'm super interested in the future. I'm just still pretty underwhelmed with the tech.
It's a fun one to talk about. It's interesting where we're at because I'm a huge cloud gaming advocate on the Xcast. I love cloud gaming, and I know that we've been working towards consoles, and it almost feels like we're like a year or two ahead of schedule. It feels like they're doing all this, but the internet and infrastructure of everybody else and their mama is not quite there yet, and they feel like they're ready for it all, but we're not quite ready for it on the opposite side. But it is cool that it's coming to console. I love the idea of what it's going to bring and how that's going to change the gaming landscape is a big, big deal, especially in the times that we live in where a lot of people can't get these next gen consoles. And now they got an opportunity to at least try that 1080p, 60 frames. We'll see how that goes with home internet. Moving on after that was Cult of the Holy Detonation DLC for Wasteland 3 in Exile shows off a new one coming October 5th. Do we have any In Exile Wasteland 3 fans in here?
Moving on.
That's what I thought. We're going to keep it moving. That is one. It's interesting. In Exile has been rumored. If you're an Xbox fan, you've heard the rumors of what their next project is going to be. And, we don't have any teasers for that. This might not have been the place to show it, but maybe even a little talk of that would have been a lot more excitement around this because Wasteland 3, you're either in it or you're not in it. So we kept that moving. Sea of Thieves, we got a special event. A new ship starts tomorrow. The Borderlands ship and the Making Mayhem event, August 24th through September 7th.
That's today, Mikey.
Yeah, heck, you know what, Greg? You and I, we're going back on to Sea of Thieves right now.
Let's get out there tonight and see what's up.
I look forward to this. I think we really
Here's the thing with the Sea of Thieves stuff. It's like this to me is what I want to see from these Xbox things. It's like kind of fill in the moments with this didn't go on too long. We have these ongoing live games, especially with Game Pass and like the availability for games that may have came out a couple of years ago, but they're still being supported. Like I love the idea that when Xbox does a show, we're getting these pop back into like eventually like what's new to Forza, what's new to Halo Infinite, what's new to Sea of Thieves, like build that ecosystem and that lineage of Xbox games. So for me, I count this as a win. It's just kind of a win in the kind of like expected, okay, cool, I expect that to be there, and not the most exciting thing in press conference like this.
It's a reward for being loyal to a game, right? Or having invested time in a game one way or the other, where it's like, okay, cool. Like, here's a reason to turn on Sea of Thieves. Here's a reason to turn on Grounded. Here's a reason to turn on State of Decay. Like, well, these are games that don't need a full-blown expansion, a full-blown sequel, a full-blown giant Pirates of the Caribbean event. It can just be something cool. Like, hey, remember this game you really liked and haven't played in a while? Here's a reason to play it tonight, and or maybe a couple nights, depending on how long this event is.
This is one of their easy goes to because it's one of their live service games, right? As we start to move into this new day and age of gaming where every game is a live service game, right? You have to have these updates. You have to tease people to come back and try your game. And they've done a really good job with Sea of Thieves and the marketing behind that because every single time we do an Xbox conference, you can bet your bottom dollar Sea of Thieves will be there. That's a guarantee. And this one, it does look fun, right? I would have liked to learn a little bit more about the Making Mayhem event and what that's going to entail, but I think they got in and out pretty quick with just the ship, so that was good. But yeah, when you look at Xbox's portfolios, you're going to see a rise in these live service games, and they're going to continue to do that every time they host a live stream, an event, a Inside Xbox. They're going to hit you with about 5 of these because that's what they're moving towards with a number of their games. So Sea of Thieves, this one, I don't know what happened here. I don't know why we even talked about this, but State of Decay 2 came out with an update. There's a new map, 6 new bases, new weapons coming September 1st. Homecoming. is what they're calling this one, I believe. But this is one for me. Who the heck is still playing State of Decay 2? And why are we putting updates into this game? These games, the first one, I think, got a lot of traction. I think the second one came out and was just like so. You had the diehards, and it didn't capture the bigger, wider audience. And it is insane to me that we're working on State of Decay 3 and somehow we're still talking about State of Decay 2. I'm blown away by this, truly and honestly. They gave a nice little one to throw back in my face. 10 million lifetime users. But not like Sea of Thieves, where they're like, hey, in June, we had a huge growth and we had the most people that ever played this game. That was just lifetime. Greg, you're the only jabroni I know that has ever played State of Decay with me.
Real quick,
is this ever going to make you go back?
Real quick, I just want to add this. They didn't say this in this, but I saw it on Twitter that the reason it's called Homecoming is the map they're adding is the original map from State of Decay 1.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, they talked about
it.
this in the presentation that you're going back to Trumbull County or whatever, and that it's changed, and it's not it's the same map, but it's changed since the time is gone or whatever that's been happening. So yeah, I played State of Decay. I like State of Decay. I loved State of Decay 1 and State of Decay 2 hit too similar. It was exactly the same game, I felt, in so many different regards that I walked away. I didn't want to play the same thing again. And so I've come back and done a couple streams with you here and there, Mike, but I've never gone back and gotten something so different out of it that I was like, I got to go back and play State of Decay. Because you're talking about State of Decay 1, like I played and loved, and then like I think when it did the special edition, I played and loved that, and then did all the DLC for it and stuff. Like I was all about State of Decay. And so the fact that State of Decay 2 has just been so samey that I can't get into it. So samey in the same way of some of the bugs it was having. This is at launch, obviously. I'm sure it's been updated and all these different things. I look at this and go, cool, but I'm like, I will wait for State of Decay 3. But you understand, Mike, of course, with Xbox Game Pass, there's this big game that a lot of people probably haven't touched. And zombies are still very popular in video games, right? So put out a piece of DLC to get people to go back through that, try to have them have that Sea of Thieves, Pirates of the Caribbean moment, right? That was such an eye-opener for so many people who had slept on Sea of Thieves.
So well said, Greg. It is another one of their quote-unquote live service games that you can always go back to, and they'll feed you updates. When you look at Grounded, you look at Sea of Thieves, State of Decay is in this window that they will do. It's just odd to me that this game has come and gone so long ago, and we're looking forward to State of Decay 3. It's wild to see an update for State of Decay 2 that continues, does not sell me on this game, which is wild to see. Up next, we had Stray Blade coming spring 2022 from 505 Games, publishing it, or somebody is either publishing or developing it from 505 Games. Didn't keep it moving. Hit the brakes. Everybody want to talk about this one?
It looks pretty generic. It looks like a lot of similar games in that genre where it's that sort of stylized Fortnite kind of look, World of Warcraft, Overwatch sort of blocky colors and sort of
I describe it as
chunky
like
characters.
Absolver meets Godfall. Like both games, like Absolver has that Fortnite stylized polygonal look to it, but then Godfall I think has the generic fantasy where Godfall is a very beautiful looking game, but the actual design of it just has so much going on. I can very much peg it as, oh, this is just straight up fantasy. They went all in on fantasy, and this kind of gives me the in between of both of those. Yeah, I'm with Andy. It looks all right.
There would have to be something really big to hook and kind of make that game stand out from a lot of other video games that are in that sort of genre, and there just wasn't a whole lot there, unfortunately, for me.
Yeah, this one didn't hit for me. Moving on was King Crusader 3. We're moving on to number 3 in the trilogy here. A game that I don't think any of us on this panel really are into. I've never seen anybody look at me and go, yo, I like these real-time strategy games on the big old game board with the small people moving around it. So
sorry.
We'll keep it moving on that one. Thankfully,
when was that? Did I fall asleep?
Don't worry, everybody fell asleep. It's fun. Is right. Crusader Kings. Thank you. Crusader Kings 3 came out. So we'll keep it moving on that one. They brought out Psychonauts 2, which was a nice little bump. We sat a little too long with Tim and Lizette, but that was the harken back to this is an Inside Xbox. These are these deep dives, right? And we just hung out with Tim and Lizette from Double Fine Productions for what I felt like was just a little bit too long, but it's always nice to hear from those two and get them to share a little bit more about their game that is releasing tomorrow, which is a big deal, right? It's nice to see them one more time before the game's release. Usually you see a lot of press junkets before the game, but then right as it releases and after, we kind of lose sight of all that, or we've been there, done that, played it, and we don't really get to keep up with the team. So nice to see Tim and Lizette. Hopefully you go and play this game. It's on Game Pass. I know me and Barrett love this game a lot. Barrett got me into Psychonauts 1. Barrett has now almost 100%ed it. He has. And that's a big deal for Psychonauts 2. I love it, Barrett. What do you think?
They should have. I think they should have opened up with this to really pump out that this is coming out tonight. It's gonna be on Game Pass, PC, cloud, and console to really push to really show that Xbox is confident in this game. That a lot of reviewers are saying a Game of the Year contender. I thought it was really weird to have this later in the show, in a part of the show that you would expect more I don't know, announcements or follow-ups. There's a game coming out tonight. It's not like they had a follow-up of talking about DLC or anything. I think they should have started the stream with the launch trailer, do a quick 1-minute thing of Tim and company pitching what the game is, and just move on from there. I do agree that we stayed a little long on the game, and I think it showed up way too late into the presentation.
I agree. It would have been a stronger opener than Dying Light 2. Look, Tim Schafer's a national treasure. Right, we will have nothing but respect for Tim. Psychonauts 2 clearly is shaping up to be a strong Game of the Year contender. I think it probably is going to end up. It's going to be a big part of that conversation and might end up as a lot of people's game of the year. It seems quite certain. It's dropping tonight, tomorrow, and it's an exclusive. Right, I mean, this is the kind of stuff they should be building their message around.
And I'm not sure how early.
Not exclusive. Just to be clear, it is on PlayStation.
I'm sorry. My mistake. For some reason, I thought it was because they bought Double Fine. Maybe I thought they had brought that.
They had still had an agreement. I think specifically.
Yeah. It's one of those grandfathered ones. My mistake. Nonetheless, clearly going to be one of the top games of the year.
I was going to hope you were going to flip on it. Well, if it's everywhere, fuck it.
If it's on PlayStation, then fuck Tim Schafer. No, again, it's obviously a fantastic game. Tim's a legend. They would have done. I think they could have bumped this up and opened with it as opposed to whatever it was they opened with.
I just wanted to mention that I know that these things get made and produced ahead of time, but I think it would have been really great to sort of add some. Or at least have some sort of ad in there saying, here's what the review scores are so far. People are absolutely loving it.
Yeah.
A lot of Game of the Year recommendations out there. Because I think Psychonauts is sort of that perfect type of game that the mass market may not think is for them, when really it likely is, but it just seems like such an indie darling, and you have to sort of be in that sort of cult following to enjoy Psychonauts. And it really seems like it's past that threshold by far, and saying look, a lot of people are going to like this game. You just have to play it. Tons of people online who didn't even play 1 are really digging it. So you got to give it a shot because it's going to be on a lot of people's Game of the Year lists.
I think the stellar review scores are going to what is what is going to get a lot of people to look at it who otherwise might have. Psychonauts is a great game, but it was a cult classic, right? There's a lot of people out there who haven't played Psychonauts. Anytime you see the sequel to a game you haven't played or don't know much about, you worry a little bit about, well, do I need to? Is there a barrier of entry here? It sounds like they've done a great job of getting you up to speed on the events of the previous game for people who will be coming to this for the first time. They obviously need to market this to people beyond just the existing Psychonauts fan base, and it deserves to reach that wider audience. But it's one of those weird things where I wonder if it being a sequel to a game that a lot of people don't necessarily know about might actually hold it back a little bit. But I think those review scores are going to help in that department.
I agree with everybody here. I think Psychonauts should have led the way, and that Tim and Lizette interview really would have set the tone a lot faster than Dying Light 2, and maybe we would have come out of this a little bit differently. Up next, we have our final two. The Gunk was shown off again, and this is one of the games I touched on at the beginning of the stream. These are the games that Xbox has talked about and touted to end out the year of 2021, and we've known about the Gunk for quite some time. We've looked forward to Crossfire X, Among Us, Fall Guys, Scorn, Bright Memory, and it was just very odd that, yes, after the show, they put out a blog post with the release date. This is wild to think that we showed off the Gunk in not really a story-driven or heavy way to even detail what the heck is going on in the Gunk, and then not hit us with the release date is just wild to see this. This was probably 90 seconds of not much going on to show off the Gunk.
Is
really
there a specific date? Because I thought that they just said December.
December, yes.
Okay,
I mean, still, I would have liked to seen that up on the screen. So the Gunk, once again, I think this fell flat really hard. And thankfully made way to what matters. Yeah, tell me, Bless.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. Like, this is one that really should have popped for a game that's coming off of the same devs as SteamWorld Dig 2, which was a huge game for them, like a game that got excellent reviews. This is one that they should have shown off in a way better way. Like, we were trying to figure out what it was during stream, and I think I said that it was a roguelite, but I looked it up and I was like, nah, I can't even tell what this is. Like, there's not really any good description of exactly is this a Metroidvania? Is this just an action adventure game? Like, I couldn't actually confirm any of that. And so this would have been the time to strike in terms of them saying, hey, this is a game. It's starring X, Y, and Z people. I saw a tweet on Twitter earlier that Fiona Nova is playing a role in this game, which is a really cool thing. That's something that you could have included in there. Like, right now would have been the time to really drive home that, hey, this is a big title that's really cool, and this is what the gameplay structure is. This is what the story is. It has an interesting setup. It has characters. Here, let us introduce you to the characters. I think there's so much that you could show off for this game that should be highly anticipated, but I think they really did fumble the bag on it.
I think I'm a little bit opposite. I think I may be the only one that I'm really digging these visuals, and for whatever reason, this one did a lot for me than the first time we saw it. The first time we saw it, I was just like, this is generic ass city, no thanks. But something about, and maybe it's a bit of how we view trailers here in Discord, but watching it on YouTube after the fact, this game looks really gorgeous to me, and I think I just love the art style and the art direction of it all, and it seems like a game that I will at least try out because, as you all know, me and Janet Garcia are the world's #1 Recore fans, and this seems right up our alley, you know.
Yeah, it's one that I've had on my list for a long time and have been excited for. It's just when you come down to it, it's time for a release date. It's time for a little more info. And it was odd they chose just 90 seconds of this instead of any sort of info dump. But to end it all out, we end with Forza Horizon 5, which we'll talk about the ending here right afterwards, and we'll move into some Halo talk. But Forza Horizon 5 came out with a awesome controller, Gary.
What a fucking
whoa! Greg Miller, let me tell you what. You want to know what the highlight, the spark plug, the excitement was for this conference? Was this controller right here. Thankfully, they brought out Forza Horizon 5. We got to debut and show off Mexico once again, but they came out with a controller, and this team
debut
over on Xbox,
and show off Mexico once again. Wait, what?
Too many times. This is another game. I've seen this too many times. I don't need to see it anymore, but I understand it's your big tentpole and you got to do it.
Blessing was begging for it the entire presentation.
The controller's hot. So, Greg Miller, tell me about this controller. Why do you think it's so dope?
Well, who doesn't love being able to see through your controller like you're holding an N64?
Amen.
You know what I mean?
Amen.
Come on. You kidding me right now? Let's get that off the thing.
This is definitely the hottest controller since the N64 see-through purple one.
And then this, I love this splash of the blue and pink here. Andy, how's it? Is it hitting you? Is it hitting for you?
It's so hot. I mean, it's that sort of. I think it was maybe Tim or Barrett who mentioned that this is like just Rage 2 all over again. It looks so hot. It's the perfect color combos. Anybody who doesn't like it, crazy.
I don't think those people exist, honestly. Who couldn't like this?
They're old and out of touch if they don't like
it. I was honestly dismayed. When I saw when I saw the controller, and then when I saw the reactions, and I've been checking up on Twitter, and people I respect, people like Rebecca Valentine and Brittany Brombacher are saying they're vibing on it as well. The one saving grace was that the most stylish man at Kinda Funny is in my corner on this one, and this is the only thing I got going for me. Don't look. I think the controllers are not. I think that, you know, it's not, you know, the translucent thing. We can kind of see like the vibrating motors inside the controller. They kind of made it seem like, you know, the pistons, you know, pumping inside a high performance car. That's all cool.
Look at those buttons.
But the whole Jackson Pollock, Fisher Price kind of vibe of this thing, it doesn't look good to me. The annoying thing is I still have to get it because I said I'm a collector now. I gotta fucking get this thing just to complete the collection.
Got ya.
But look, at the end of the day, if you like it, you get it. If you don't like it, don't get it. You know,
about it on podcasts.
or if you're an idiot, if you're an idiot like me, if you don't like it, still fucking get it because you got to catch them all. But look, I personally don't like it, and I was wondering, is it just me? Is it just me? And then the saving grace again was Tim Geddes, the most stylish man at Kinda Funny, the guy who always looks like he just rolled out of a nightclub that none of us could ever fucking get into, the White Drake, the man who fucking knows style more than anyone else at Kinda Funny is in my corner. He knows that this controller is a fucking aesthetic abomination. Thank God Tim's with me on this one.
I love you so much, Gary. Now here's the thing. I want to start this off with the most positive thing I can say, which is I love love Xbox's commitment to these limited edition controllers. I love the way they've been dropping them, the rollout, not putting out too many at a time, but kind of building that hype, making each one feel like a special event. And we're starting to finally see the like specific game versions of these controllers. I've always been a fan of that. I do got to say, I love the differences this controller has over the last couple we've seen. Like I do like the transparency. I do think the yellow is kind of hot. I like the color scheme overall. It's just the paint splatter that never wins me over. I don't like that look. I'm with Gary that it kind of has that Fisher Price is just way too cheap. Like Xbox has been knocking it out of the park with their controllers, with the exception of that weird daylight camo or whatever the hell that was. But otherwise, I'm a big fan. I get why some people could like this. It's just definitely not for me. But I am excited at the idea of this controller because it means in the future we will get some other hot neon transparent controllers. So that's
I don't
cool.
mind any like
that
electric
translucent
Volt
stuff
is
up
my
on
second
Design Lab.
favorite. You know, anyone with any aesthetic taste knows that the controller rankings go like this: that new aqua blue one at the very, very top,
Yeah.
Electric Volt right behind it, and then at the dead
Yes.
bottom, Daystrike camo and whatever the fuck this is.
Daystrike camo.
I'm with you, Gary.
No, God. We got to again. We have to admit that the electric Volt looks like unhealthy pee, and just put it at the very bottom.
No, it looks like lemon lime Gatorade, which everyone loves.
I love that we now have two technically yellow controllers from this team, which is great. And you said it well, Tim, of like this team has come out, this new generation said, hey, we have ID at Xbox, or we have the Xbox Design Lab. You can go create your own stuff, right? We have the two that we came out with, and then they've just constantly released new controller colors, and it always feels something fresh, something new, and something you can get behind. And it's never too overwhelming with too many of them. So they're really finding their stride with these controllers and doing a great job with that team over there. But of course, we saw the cover cars, which is a big deal, right? In all sports games, you got to have the dope cover athletes. We got the cover cars, which is the Bronco, the Corvette, Mercedes, and then there's a Porsche maybe in there. They showed off 4 cars as well, but I only think 3 are on the cover. But once again, they showed out how awesome Playground Games and this game is going to be. It's wild to think that we live in an age in 2021 where Forza Horizon has brought all of the hype and really carried this whole presentation to make it semi-fun to me, which is insane to think about. So Cloud, Controller, Forza, all bangers, in my opinion, on this presentation. Everything else could just throw that right out the window and forgettable. But let's talk about it. We missed out on 2 things to me as a big Xbox fan that I'm very sad and disappointed we're not here. And that's Halo and any sort of mention of a 20th anniversary celebration. It's now been 8 months into the year for celebrating the 20th anniversary, and we have done really nothing to celebrate this besides a couple of T-shirts and some fun blog posts occasionally. But like, there's been no indication of any sort of 20th anniversary, and I don't know if that's going to be COVID. I don't know if they're saving that for we're literally just going to do it on the day or in the month, but it seems like they've really wasted away a fun opportunity for marketing. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe 20 means nothing to people, I don't know. But no Halo. Let's talk about that.
Means something to me, Mike.
Okay, Tim, tell me. I mean, is this a missed opportunity? We've done 8 months now. Why are we not celebrating this? There's an Xbox mini fridge rumor. There's the 20th anniversary. We're celebrating the first ever console launch, the original OG Xbox. You have a brand new console edition with the Xbox Series. You have Halo coming out. You have Forza. This 20th anniversary should be on and popping. I thought there would be blog posts, YouTube videos, play dates where we're celebrating it. We're celebrating the community. They're getting fun memories out. The teams are getting fun memories out. Maybe we bring back some awesome games from way back in the day for backwards compatibility. And it felt like this whole year is like, we haven't talked about that at all. And it doesn't feel right.
And they set it up like they were going to. And obviously the world's in a complicated place now. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I am sure they wanted Halo to hit November 15th. And I'm starting to feel a little doubtful it's going to hit November 15th. So I'm sure a lot of the plans around the 20th anniversary bonanza have had to change over the years. But we've seen the logos came out, the shirts came out, the merch. Like there's a lot of hotness with the 20-year anniversary Xbox stuff. And I even given where we're at, I thought that there would be more, just like you're saying, just kind of celebrating like anniversaries of things and the different games on the original Xbox and all of that. And we're just getting real close where they can pull something out. But, there's only so many major Xbox events in a year, and we just completed one of the final ones of the year.
All right. So our final tentpole that was not here, and the biggest issue was no Halo. And so whatever this may be, we're going to talk about why there was no Halo and what that meant to everybody there and how that could have brought the spark. And I want to also know, putting Halo at another event, let's say it does come out tomorrow. And of course, if you're listening or watching this later on, maybe it comes out at opening night live with Jeff Keighley. But as an Xbox presentation, as an Xbox guy here on the Kinda Funny Xcast, not having one of the two biggest tentpoles, which is Halo, still no release date, could have shown off a campaign, sort of trailer to get the hype and excitement for Master Chief, could have brought out a flight here and brought out some more flight dates. Nothing at all of Halo, and just an abrupt ending. Gary Whitta, I mean, you missed out on last week where we talked about the co-op campaign.
Yeah.
Missing out on Halo on something like this, is that a huge miss?
I mean, they're definitely, it's so weird, the Halo story, surrounding its release and the hype machine. It's been such a roller coaster, all the way from it getting pushed back, almost a year ago. Now it got delayed. It wasn't going to hit with the console launch. That was a bummer. Then it felt like they were starting to build back some positivity. Those deep dive developer diaries they've been doing have been really interesting. The test flight, I think, was a big success, right? That built the hype a lot. And then but then another down slope with no co-op campaign, still no date, a time when we should kind of be expecting it. There's Call of Duty Vanguard is out there announcing its November release date. Like, if this game's going to hit before the holidays, they need to be going gold and start pressing discs like right now. Like, they should have a sense of what the date is. I do want to check in on the manage expectations thing though. Like, they did say manage expectations. They did say don't expect too much. I don't want to make apologies for Microsoft. I think we've all gone pretty hard on Microsoft during the reactions and in this Xcast, talking about the things that we found underwhelming, which was most of it. Is it on us though that we were expecting some Halo stuff here and didn't get it? Did we quote unquote have a right to expect there would be some Halo updates as a part of this presentation?
Yeah, you can't say that, Gary, because there's two tentpole titles for the end of 2021, and if we're going to give updates and deep dives for the end of 2021 with those games, Halo has to be there. I don't even care if we don't have a date. I don't care if you can't come out with a flight.
No, you're right.
Put Master Chief on that screen. There's no way. There's only two franchises we're looking forward to at the end of this year, and it's unbelievable.
I just wanted to ask the question, but I think you're right, Mike. I think I agree with you, and I tell you what, mate. I tell you what proves that is I think we all did expect it. And after, you kind of feel like, Forza's big, but it's not number one. We all know what number one is, right? That's the one you close on. You're going to close strong with something from Halo that's going to dazzle us. Hopefully, get that energy back after the big co-op campaign bummer of the past week. And it wasn't just that they didn't show it. It's just that the stream seemed to end so abruptly. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but it makes me wonder if they almost were preparing to have something and then they decided to cut it at the last minute, which is why it ended in such a weird way. Like, go back and watch the feed of us all staring at that thanks for watching stream going, wait, is that it? And even you, Mike, were like, no, that's not it. There's one more thing, but there wasn't, right? It just seemed weird. And so I don't know what happened, but maybe there's more Gamescom to come. Maybe there's something with whatever Keighley's event is. I don't know. Maybe there's something still to come. But
Xbox Game Studios is confirmed for opening night live tomorrow. That's already on Keighley's.
So maybe there's something there. I mean, we're all waiting on that release date. They're running out of time, I think, to kind of announce something. Yeah, it felt kind of odd that they didn't have anything. Like, they didn't even mention it, and it's their biggest game.
I feel like that's the biggest miss. And we've talked about this at the top of the show, but now that we're here talking about Halo, it is this idea that people are looking forward to that. They're doing it. You can say manage expectations, but yes, they ended saying, hey, if you want more Forza, remember, we're streaming it over here on this thing. And how easy would have been, we're not done yet. There is more Xbox tomorrow at Opening Night Live, wink, or hey, let's just put it out there. We're talking Halo tomorrow at Opening Night Live, something to that effect, not to leave it this toothless of a presentation.
How does that make you feel, Greg, of putting out your biggest title not on your stage? Is that the right move? Is this the wrong move? Why have an Xbox presentation if you're going to show your biggest game somewhere else?
To me, it's about, what do you want your presentation to be? What do you expect this to be? It's what I was talking about with video games. What's the success to publisher X is different than a success to publisher Y. And so I'd imagine this comes down to the framing of what people want to be. I understand the power of Jeff Keighley more than most, right? And Game Awards and what he's trying to do with Opening Night Live. And I think you put it on Opening Night Live, there's going to be more eyes on Opening Night Live than there are going to be on an Xbox specific showcase, because that gets to bring in different people. Timothy Geddes.
Exactly. And I think that our feelings on this show would be totally flipped if opening night live was first, Halo was there. Any of the if there was major news from this, like dates or announcements, which there wasn't, they'd be announced at opening night live, and then the next day this happens.
Here's all the rest of it.
And here's the rest. I think that's a totally different framing. But like this makes you question why wasn't Halo here. Whereas if Halo was at opening night live and then we had this, we wouldn't be questioning it because we'd already have the answers we're looking for.
Yep.
Andy, Blessing, any thoughts on Halo before we get out of here?
I just want to play it.
I just miss it, Mike.
Just miss it. Halo,
in my hands.
Don't be afraid to call. Don't be afraid to show your face on the block. I miss you a lot. Jeff,
Mike, I'll turn it to you. Do you think tomorrow open that live you get a Halo release date?
Do I get a release date? I mean, I better, Greg Miller. I mean, personally, I better. Yeah, I truly believe it. It's time to come out with a release date. If they don't give a release date and they hide the hype and the fun around the next flight, that will be all well and good, and I'll probably just keep it moving. But it is interesting that I'm, 60 days away from what would be the 20th anniversary, what would be considered prime holiday seasons. Battlefield has already picked a date. Call of Duty has picked a date. It's time for Halo to step up and pick a date, or let's all be transparent and come out and be like, man, there's a lot going on and we're jumbling this. Here's just multiplayer and we're going to delay the campaign. Let's just have that conversation right away because, Big Joe had to come out on that YouTube presentation on Friday and it didn't feel right. Everybody was real down on that. So I'll end it with Jeff Grubb saying this. Microsoft just likes playing well with others. So Jeff asks, and Xbox probably wants to help. So shout out to that one right there. We'll see. But I look forward to a lot of Halo. This has been the Kinda Funny Xcast. That was a head-scratching Gamescom 2021 Xbox stream. We got to talk all about it with an incredible crew today. Shout out to Paris Lilly and Kate Yeager for hosting a great show over there. You both were incredible. Shout out to everybody involved as well for getting the show off their games. Thank you to Gary Witta, Greg Miller, Andy Cortez, Blessing out of Yo-Yo Jr., and Tim Geddes for joining me on another episode of the Kinda Funny Xcast. This is your show for the week, so I'll catch you next week to talk all things Gamescom. And please put out some positive energy if you're listening to this right now. Halo, you better be there and you better bring the hype. Get us out of here. See ya.
And either way, Gamescast tomorrow. We'll be covering everything, Xbox and otherwise, with a very similar crew to this. So get hyped for that.